Shalom Yimrama. Yaseh Shalom Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen.
Just say Mishnais.
All right.
Mishnais.
Or usually I'll say the Vartari. Say after. We'll say. Because there's still. Right. Yeah, but we could say it after the Vartari. Listen, do you want to speak? You're a bigger Talmud than I am. You're a bigger Chassid than I am. I know, but the Untreffen. Okay. You want to say first? You want to say twice?
No.
Okay. So we learned yesterday Shtickle from Kedushas Levi, and we have that was the first one we learned yesterday. So now we'll look at the second Torah from Kedushas Levi in Parshas Korach. This one maybe touched a little bit more to home than yesterday, though they all really have something that we can learn from, that we can make practical. So the Pasuk says that Korach took, and we know Rashi says that that Korach, he took a bad taking for himself. It was a bad business dealing. So the Heilige Berditch of Erov, Levi Yitzchak and Sorososhem Berditch of Schusi Galim Kusulmeni says like this: it's one type of a tzaddik. The only reason that he worships the Almighty is in order to give pleasure. Kiviyachol, such a thing. There's really no hishtan. There's no change in the etzem of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. But the purpose of creation, the tachlis, is fulfilled by the tzaddik, and so he's giving a pleasure to a Kadosh Baruch Hu kiviyachol. And the main issue here is that the tainuk should be made. That this pleasure should be given to God. Doesn't matter who does it. He could do it. Another tzaddik could do it. Doesn't care. But then there's another level, that the purpose that one worships the Almighty is in order to receive a reward. And then he himself should do it. He doesn't want to give that away to someone else. Like we know in Pirkei Avos it says, Antignashi Soiche, says, the reason that we should serve the Almighty, it should not be for the purpose of receiving a reward. Just be good for goodness sake. I met someone yesterday. I was talking to them, and I asked them about a particular job that they did some 50 years ago, that was not as well known as maybe other things that they had done. And I said, and I saw you didn't get any credit for this, and this was in the secular world. And this person said, well, I just wanted to work with this other person. I was under a contract, so they allowed me to do this as long as I didn't get credit, and I didn't get paid for it. But I was willing to do it because I wanted to work with this other person. To that person, it was a schus to be able to work with this other person. That's what it means when Antignashi Soiche says we should be kavonim shamshin sarav shaloyal manas lekabel pras. That we should be like people who serve our master, not to receive a reward. It's good enough that we're honored to be part of the team that's serving God. And so therefore, if we're part of that team that's serving the Almighty and getting the job done, doesn't matter if I do it, if you do it, if he does it, someone else does it, as long as the job gets done, that's what matters. And that's what it says, V'zel v'yikach Korach. That specifically the Korach took it. Genemt, what does it mean? Sharata hu yikach li'acher. He was jealous. He wanted to be Makabel Pras. That's what he cared about. He wanted to receive the reward. And because he wanted to receive the reward, he didn't want anyone else to do it. That's what it means when we said what Rashi says. They took this bad taking, this evil business deal for himself. That's why he disagreed with Moshe Rabbeinu. He said, he wanted to be the Kohen Gadol. It was a very interesting thing because we know Korach's argument was Kol Eid Kulam Kedoshim B'Seichem Hashem. He says everybody is Everybody is holy, and Hashem is in their midst. Umadu es nasam al das Hashem. Why did you lift yourself up? Korach said to Moshe Rabbeinu, why did you lift yourself up above everyone? We're all equals here. We don't need any type of a class system, a caste system. We're all equals. Why do you're the king and your brother's the Kohen Gadol and this and that? But Sov Kol Sov, he didn't really mean it. Like we saw, Rachmana Litzlan, the horrors of the communists. They spoke a good talk to say, oh, everybody's equal. But like we know, I think it was George Orwell said, in the animal farm, all these animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. And it was the same thing. He talked a good talk, this Korach, but really he wanted to take all the power himself. And that's what, quite often when people talk like this, that they're saying that everybody's equal, really nobody's equal. And it's really just his own ideology that he wanted to lift himself up.
But isn't this a question on, Korach was not asking the question of everybody equal, he was questioning more of Moshe's direction because he skipped his family as the next one.
Yeah.
So it's not part of equal, he's saying...
No, but he said, Kol Eido Kulam Kadeshim.
No.
That was the argument he made. Said the whole congregation is holy.
The first Rashi says what?
Right.
That, if you're going into a logical order,
Should've
the
been...
logical order be straight logic, not...
Right.
That's why he's bringing all the logical questions, right?
Right.
With the mezuzah and with the...
Right.
So, where's this part of equal come into play?
No, because he says the Kol Eido Kulam Kadeshim. That meaning, yes, he thought he gave lip service to this equality, but he didn't think what he thought was that he deserved it. But he was saying when he was making the argument publicly, he was saying Kol Eido Kulam Kadeshim. He said all the congregation is equal, and he was asking Moshe, why are you lifting yourself up? But yeah, of course, we know in his heart he didn't really mean it. The same thing, communists didn't mean it either. They just wanted to be in charge. They just wanted to, they wanted to make themselves the new czars. They didn't want to, but they used a good tactic to try to appease the people. There was the Yisbach Moshe. He said that he remembered his previous Gilgulim, several Gilgulim. One, he said he remembered that he was from the time of the Chorban Beis HaMikdash, and the Hasidim, and some other Rebbes, they said that he was Yirmiyahu Hanavi, because there was one Maisa, I think it was the Rabshitzer was there by the Yismach Moshe, and the Yismach Moshe said that the Rabshitzer should say Torah, and he quoted from Chazal that how could Hulda be giving Nevi'us when Yirmiyah is here? And so he was Miramis that he was Yirmiyahu Hanavi. And that the other, he said another Gilgul previous before that, he was in the time of the Dora Midbar, and he said that both Moshe Rabbeinu and Korach, he remembered from the Gilgul, they both had such good arguments. He wasn't sure who to follow. He was Seich al Shtei Asifim. He couldn't pick which side to follow because he was impressed by this. But you're right. He was in his heart. He didn't mean for himself. He meant it. He only meant for himself, and that's what we see here. But he talked a good talk about, and that's what I was bringing out. But anyway, you're right. What you're saying is what we see here. That he disagreed with Moshe Rabbeinu. That's what the British Rav is saying here, is that that he wanted to be the Kohen Gadol. And that was his fatal error. That if only he had realized that it didn't matter who is the Kohen Gadol. All that matters is that the avodah of the Kohen Gadol is done. And really, the Kohen Gadol is the shliach of the whole Klal Yisrael, and so therefore, if Aaron Kohen is going, and he's going lifnai v'lifnim, and Moshe Rabbeinu also was able to go, we're taught. So they were going on behalf of the whole Klal Yisrael. There's nothing. Korach wasn't missing anything that he didn't get to be the Kohen Gadol. But you're right. That was what Rashi says. But really, all the arguments that he made about the mezuzah and that the abayis malei svarim and the tal shekulat chelis Reb Tzadok, he explains that really part of Korach's argument was that al pi Kabbalah there's an Indian of a or yosher and or makif. There's a straight light and a surrounding light, and so the surrounding light is on a higher level. That's one of the reasons why by most Ashkenazim we don't put on a talis until after you're married, because that represents the Indian of the or makif, and that the bocher is not on that madrega of the or makif, And so once you're married, you're zeicha to a higher madrega. And the other kehillas really al pi halacha, the Sfardim and the Yekis, they're following the real halacha that you are supposed to wear a talis if you're married. But the reason we don't is an Inyan al pi Kabbalah like that. And ve'elu ve'elu devil kim chayim. They both have what to be al ma lismeich. But anyway, the point that he was bringing out there is that when the way Reb Tzadok teaches a shtickle is that everything that happened already, it pointed to that Mashiach was already here. That Moshe Rabbeinu essentially was Mashiach. And that the Geula had already come, and then already we were past all of these things. We were already Zeichen not only to the straight light, but to the surrounding light, to that higher level. And so all the things that he was mentioning were pointing to that idea, even perhaps not only an argument, but maybe there was some mistake there. I mean, this is the opposite of what the Kedushas Levi is saying here, but that there was this idea that we were already to the Olam Hatikun. Everything was already fixed. Everything was already good. So we didn't need any more that one mezuzah on the door, the chut chelis, because we were already on the level of a talish chut chelis of a bias molis farm. And Moshe Rabbeinu was like, that's very beautiful. We're looking forward to that, but we just have to be realistic. We're not there yet. And the reason we're not there yet is exactly what the Kedushas Levi is saying here, that still within our hearts, we have to be recognizing that we do have selfishness. We're not perfect. We shouldn't pretend to be something we're not. We shouldn't pretend, that's the mistake of being doiches akates, is that we're living in a fantasy, that when we have a premature fantasy of eschatology, that we think that everything is already all perfect, we fool ourselves to not be working and doing what we have to do to make it better. And so Moshe Rabbeinu was saying, no, even if you have a bias moli svarim, you have a house that's full of svarim, you still need the mezuzah on the door. Even you have a tal shekul tchelis, you still need the tchelis on the tzitzis. You still need the tzitzis on the beged, because that represents the idea of the or yosher, of the straight light. That's the first step. We have to. You can't skip the steps. You have to go one step and the other. Or sometimes people, they try to skip over them, they trip and they fall. And that was his michshol, is that he thought, really, maybe he really even not only convinced a lot of his followers, maybe even convinced himself of that, but still that selfishness was still hidden within him, the archetypical selfishness of that, ani emlech, I'm going to be the Kohen Gadol. And he wanted that covered for himself. But ends off the Kedushas Levi that if he only wanted to give pleasure to God, then he wouldn't disagree. All right, because again, like we said, the fact of the matter is really, if we're holding by that level of the or makif, like the way that Reb Tzadok explains it, is that so then the Kohen Gadol is on the behalf of the whole Klal Yisrael. Then the Melech is on because there's still going to be, when Mashiach comes, there's still going to be a Melech HaMashiach. There's still going to be a Kohen Gadol. We're going to go back to things that we don't currently have, that we had in the past, but we're going to be realizing the tachlis of those things is that really the truth is, yes, there is that level of unity that makes us all, that we recognize we're all parts, we're all, Adam Atem, like I think it was, who was it, I don't know, it's the Chavetz Chaim. They asked him, what does it mean when the Gemara says Adam Atem? No, I think it was Atem Karim Adam Lei Umas Oilam Karim Adam. I think maybe it was Chaim Berlin. I forgot who it was. He was defending Chazal, and he said that when it says Adam Atem, Adam is a word that's that's Lashon Yachid. It's a singular word. That when it says that the Klal Yisrael are called Adam, it's not to say that the Umas Oilam are not Barnash, laced in Barnash. They're Bas of Adam. They're Bnei Adam. But that the Klal Yisrael is a singular Adam. It's the archetype of Adam Katmain. And that really, in a certain way, when Mashiach comes, even the Umasoilim will also be uplifted by that. But we have to, in a sense, I don't mean in any Darwinian way, I mean, but in the Torah way, to evolve to a higher level of existence. But we can't fool ourselves to think that we're on that level when we're not. And that was the mistake. And so that was really what it comes down to, again, what I said, Korach's fatal error was, I guess it was twofold. Because on one hand, it was that the way the Kedushas Levi is teaching here is that his own selfishness, that he wanted to receive the schar himself, and he didn't want to let someone else to do it. But I think maybe the bigger thing is that the Abgenard from Zichalein, he fooled himself. That you can fool some of the people some of the time, and all the people, all the people some of the time, some of the people all the time. And sometimes a person can fool himself. The Kotzker says that's the biggest foolishness a person can do, is to fool himself. That is what it seems like Korach did, is that I think essentially he fooled himself to believing his own words, and he didn't realize that he had to, and the way that Moshe Rabbeinu was able to be on that higher madrigas, because like we said 2 weeks ago, that he was Anav Mikol Adam, and we could say Anav Mikol Adam, that Anivus of Moshe Rabbeinu was Mikol Adam, was from all people, and that he felt that he was this Nefesh Klalis, that he was this general soul that represented the Klal Yisrael, and that the whole Klal Yisrael could be unified. That is, and the mistake was that Korach didn't see that. He still saw that he was giving lip service to that, but he didn't realize that he wasn't really holding there. And so that's the fine line a person has to walk, and that's the Indian of Tshuva, really, of Ritzoy V'Shoif, that you have to find that balance. And so we should be zoiche to not fool ourselves. And I think I fool myself quite a lot, so I'm talking to myself, but we should be zoiche and to taka, to see, not only to be zoiche to fulfill that or yasher and the or makif, and we should be zoiche to skals kvod shemayim b'meir b'mein amen. So we cannot even akasha and zaki swell the ficha here with terms for shema and you had a different mission you want to say. Okay, go ahead.